Okay. So quick synopsis, 7 months after the Columbia accident, I guess there was a board set up called the Columbia Accident Investigation Board. And they presented a report on the causes of the accident, which I think all of us know was that foam piece, that excess foam. And it said the board pinpointed the technical cause of the accident. It also identified organizational issues within NASA dating back decades. That board also reported how managers might have behaved differently during the mission and stressed the organizational shortcoming at NASA that contributed to the catastrophe. So the first thing we want to talk about, I guess, is so what is the issue? What's the main issue in the case?
Well, I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I know, I guess the main issue was organization, like letting things run smoothly. I think that's one of them. Another one was just like not being prepared. I think they weren't prepared to send that thing up there, because if that's the least of your worries, that's one of the quotes that the leadership said, the management, like, yeah, oh yeah, the foam is the least of our worries right now. So pretty sure like they were having lots of issues and lots of problems, and that wasn't like the first mission up there. They knew like, what was going on. So maybe it was just that they were pushing it too hard and needed to slow down.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that stood out to me was the fact that over time they just continued to downgrade the importance of things. They were more focused on the timelines and making sure that they could meet their mission goals as far as getting launch time set and, you know, turning it into a business more than just what they were doing.
That's true. That's a good point. I think that's a big one for sure. Okay. The hint says it, technical problems, organizational problems, so I think we've touched on those. So the next question is, why is it important? To understand. Go ahead, Sue.
I was just to say, because if you're not prepared for something and you try to rush into it, and you're having, you know, you're putting out small fires the entire time, and you're ranking them, and or you're ranking them. Hey, this is the most important. The foam was the least of the worries, and obviously, it was an issue, a big issue. If you're constantly doing that, putting out fires and not taking the time to slow down and address them and deal with them, and you're disorganized about it, things like this are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. You know, they're obviously, it's going to cost you more money, take longer in the long run, and cause more issues than if you had just taken the time to slow down, do what you need to do, get it done right, and then go on out and tackle whatever it is that you're doing. Does that make sense? Sorry. I'm driving on I-10 and trying to watch traffic, so I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense.
No, it made sense. At least to me. Yeah, I mean, the hint on the agenda here says that understanding all aspects of a system failure will help prevent future failures, which essentially is what I think you said, Sarah.
And just adding to that, there's like this list on like Exhibit 4 in the PDF. It said significant foam shedding events. And the Columbia had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like tons before that one even came up. So in a sense, like I understand how they weren't that they weren't like that worried about it, but still, like you would think they could address those issues.
Right.
I don't know.
because it's not like this is their first rodeo at it.
I know.
Yeah, I believe I would agree with all that. I'm just typing all this stuff down for us. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what's called the recovery window. So that essentially means the time period between a threat and a major accident or prevented accident in which collective action is possible. So let's I guess put into question, what was the recovery window in this case? And the hint is time between when the problem of the foam strike was discovered after the launch to the day that Columbia exploded, if that makes sense.
Didn't it say that the mission was 13 days? So they discovered it the day after the launch. They ultimately had 12 days to try and do something.
Yeah, I think it was 13. I think I agree with that. I don't remember the exact number, but it sounds right.
Yeah, it said, I don't remember the number exactly either, but it said that they could have sent like another shuttle up. Like there was a lot of really expensive fixes, but they could have fixed it. It was possible. They like one of them they had to send like another shuttle up even to and like other astronauts and things, and or another one was they had to spend extra time in space. So like potentially they could have fixed it. It would have cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and I look at the Apollo 13 mission. At that point in time, NASA did everything that was possible to figure out how to save those people. And at this time, it seems like they just kind of blew it off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get that typed real quick.
I don't know. I feel like when they were, looking at their options or whatever, they were like, yeah, it would have cost a lot of money, but I'm like, you just put a price tag on those people's heads.
I think one of the other things that changed between the Apollo 13 and then this one was there was much more bureaucratic approach to communications. Everything seemed to have to go through different levels, and
Right.
they had to have permission, where during the Apollo 13 it was mission control that just did everything.
That's true. A lot
Yeah.
of red tape.
Yep. Very true. Okay. So this next section here talks about downplaying some of the threats or some of the perceived threats in the case. So the first question here, and if you don't understand, I can ask it again. What is human cognitive bias, and how does it apply in this case? So a hint would be cognitive bias would be systematic errors in judgment. Another bias would be our tendency to look for information that confirm what we currently believe. A sunk cost bias, which I think what we've talked about, our tendency to escalate commitment to a course of action into which we've already invested time, money, or other resources. So what are some biases that apply in this case?
I think maybe the biggest one was the resource bias. That I think the budget was like $5 billion, and this space shuttle was supposed to last a long time, and they built it to last, which is kind of ironic. But I think the biggest bias was just that, like kind of what Sarah said, in their minds, the shuttle and the mission, like it being a success and going smoothly, was more important than the people's heads, than the astronauts' heads. And I think that was just their line of cognitive thinking. whether consciously or subconscious. That's kind of what it seemed like.
Right. I mean, and I think maybe there was a little bit of time bias when they had identified the problem. Maybe they thought they had more time to deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other biases we can think of?
The other thing I thought of was the pride factor. They just wanted to make sure that, as far as the public was concerned, everybody perceived that everything was going well.
And I mean, and on that same note, it's like you said, it's perception, and maybe they're just like, well, we got it out there in space, good job, yay for us. We can push the foam thing aside or any other errors that we've put out along the way, but it was the, hey, we got it done, you know what I mean? Before everything, blew up, but. It was putting their heads down and pushing through instead of taking the time to take a step back and look at it a different way, maybe.
Yep.
Okay. So I think we've already talked about it, but maybe this might bring a little bit more light to the case. What evidence is present in this case of some of the biases we've already talked about? And I know we've hinted at them, we've talked about them, but some other hints that maybe to help out is at the flight readiness review meeting, the senior NASA managers concluded the foam shedding was an acceptable risk, which we talked about. And then each safe return of a shuttle, despite other foam strikes that I think Jared pointed out, it affirmed management's belief that there was a low risk of failure, that the foam was not an issue. But I guess, is there any other evidence to prove, like actual evidence in the case that proves our resource or pride or time bias we're talking about?
Sorry, I don't have the case pulled up right in front of me, or I can, scroll through it real quick and think if any specific wording in there.
As far as the resource bias, just to get evidence, wasn't there a budget, $0.15 billion or something like that? Wasn't that what that number was?
Oh yeah, there was that. Yeah.
Yeah, 5.15 billion was the budget. And a reliable and efficient shuttle that would meet performance requirements and last for 100 missions. And it was supposed to be $7.7 million per mission.
Okay. That's a good one there.
Didn't it say, though, that the emissions were approaching 42 million?
I think that's when they decided to contract it out or something. Isn't that what they decided to do?
Yeah, they were trying to subsidize part of it.
Oh yeah, during the European battle or whatever, when they were competing. What about the time bias? I don't know if it mentioned anything about that in the case specifically, but
Well, one of the things that they were focused on was that they needed to get it back and make sure that they could turn it around and be ready to go for a second or another launch right after that.
and then can you word that one more time, Grant? So they were so concerned with being ready to launch that they get protocol is what you're saying, I guess?
Yeah, I was trying to find it. Yeah, the manager by the name of Ham was in charge of the next mission, and she knew that if there was anything that they found, it was going to delay the next mission, and that was the one that she was going to be in charge of.
Oh wow, I don't even remember reading that. That's crazy. That's definitely a time bias. And they were already like 3 years behind schedule, weren't they?
Yeah, or
Getting this
more.
thing off, like off the blocks, because it didn't really mention specific issues, but I just remember it saying it was like 3 years behind schedule.
Yeah. So here it said that they needed to make sure that they made the next flight because they were going to be taking up Node 2 of the International Space Station by February 19th, 2004. NASA senior management considered that target date critical for two reasons. First, Node 2 would complete the U.S. core of the space station. And second, NASA and the space station program had faced increased scrutiny in recent years from the White House Office of Management and Budget. So they were trying to make sure that they met their timelines so that they could continue to receive their funding.
So that could go double for a time and a resource.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah, I think we're good on that one. The next question here talks about shared cognitive framing. And I guess the hint for that one, because I didn't understand what that meant, beliefs and assumptions that help us simplify a complicated reality. I don't even know if that makes sense, but what is a shared cognitive framing? I guess I don't understand what that is, but that's one of the questions.
Can you read the hint one more time?
Beliefs and assumptions that help us simplify a complicated reality. And I guess I'll read the next hint for the next question to maybe help us out. Like NASA viewed their program as an operational rather than experimental endeavor, which makes riskier decision making. NASA sold their program on economic grounds because it was more cost effective.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. We can skip them. We don't have to do them.
Again? Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, what is shared cognitive framing? And we don't have to do all the questions. I just was curious if you guys had kind of understood that. We don't have to do them all. We can skip those two. It's not required, but I was just curious.
So finish. So the question was, what is shared cognitive training?
Yeah, cognitive framing, like a frame in a picture frame.
Oh, framing. Okay.
Yeah, shared cognitive framing.
So it's basically taking something that's complicated and breaking it down to something simple, a simple belief, so we can understand it and comprehend it and get stuff done. Correct?
Yeah, I get that's kind of what I got from the hint, but anyway, let's just move on here. That's it. So these are questions that I think all of us should know. So we should probably be able to get these done pretty quick here. So when did the problems with Columbia begin?
I would say from the launch, like from the beginning when they decided to launch the organization, because they weren't ready.
Right.
I don't think they were ready to put astronauts in space on that mission.
Yeah. The planning, because they failed to plan, period.
Yep.
Or think the planning all the way through. Maybe that's a better way to put that.
I'm just going to add to that also, just to cover our bases and also talk about it. I think it also began when they started having the financial problems. And then the next question here talks about the debris strikes. So why did the debris strikes become an acceptable risk?
I'm sorry, can you read the question again? It cut out.
Why did the debris strikes become an acceptable risk? I'm assuming they're talking about a lot of the foam that kept blowing off all the previous missions.
Yeah, if you look at Exhibit 4, you go back there, clear back from 1981. Well, I guess it was 1983 is the first time they knew that the foam shut off and hit. And from then it was classified as a safety of flight issue, moved to an acceptable risk, and then later on just anomaly and an accepted risk.
Maybe it's because they just almost took it for granted. Maybe that's why it became acceptable. Because they're like, oh, it's just going to do it. We don't know why. It's just going to do it. So it does it every time, so it's not that big of a deal. Does that make sense? Like, it's like when you're in your car and there's a light that comes on all the time, and you've had, you've checked a check engine light, or you have a check engine light comes on, and you've had it run the codes, you've had, all this stuff, and you're like, it's really nothing, it just does it. I don't know why it does it, but it's not hurting anything. It just does it. So maybe that's where they got to with that. Does that make sense?
It does to me. I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good point. Okay, and again, this next question, a lot of these questions we pretty much already covered, but we're going to go over them again anyway. So what is the root of the situation with the Columbia mission? So what's the root of the situation? What's the big, big issue almost, or what's going on here?
I think it's probably organization. Either organization or money over human life. Money and deadlines. I don't even know the purpose of going up there, but I'm sure it's something that even if they got nothing on that, even if they got nothing on that run up there, it still would have been okay. Like, life would have gone on. Maybe they lost money, but that is stay up there a little bit longer and do some extra things, try and fix the hole in the side of the aircraft. Maybe they could have. Yeah, I really just think it's that they were just putting deadlines and money over human life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think maybe they just had they got so, and maybe it's like, maybe they didn't, consciously do it. I don't think anybody would consciously do that. I think it's just they got so tunnel vision on the mission being a success, and that boils down to pride, just got so tunnel vision on all these problems. We're just going to keep pushing through it. It's going to work. We're going to keep pushing through it. It's going to work. And finally, when all of these things had been set in motion, they got to a point, obviously the breaking point of it's not going to work and it's too late to pull out now. You've already, it's the point of no return. You've already You've done all of these things to keep pushing it, keep that tunnel vision of we're going to make a success, we're going to make a success, this is going to work, this is going to be fine, we're going to go, 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 go. And then it just, and by the time that everybody realized, hey, what a huge issue it obviously was, it was too late.
Yep. Like what you said, plan of no return. That was a good one. Okay. So next question here. It's kind of going to be a pro and con list, essentially a strengths and weaknesses list. But it says, how would you characterize the culture at NASA? So it's kind of like we want some strengths, we want some weaknesses.
Data driven, which is good and bad.
So you put that in both, you're saying?
Yeah, because it's a good thing to have data and go off of it and all of that stuff. Well, I guess data and results, because they have, I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense. Sorry, I was trying to find my exit. Sorry. Somebody else wants to go. I'm lost. Sorry.
No, I think I get what you're trying to say. So, like, obviously, when your strengths, if you use data, use research to kind of prove your point or make sure you know what you're doing, that's good. But if you rely too heavily on it and not focus on other concerns, it can distract you from the main goal.
Yes, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, and I find my roads. We're happy. Sorry.
Okay.
I think one of the other things is that they had just become too big.
Mhm.
And with that growth, they changed the way they communicated and they went through different levels. And some of those people that should have had the opportunity to say, hey, we're going to stop this launch, didn't have that. They were overridden.
Yeah, sure. I want to add one. I don't know how to phrase it, maybe, but too much, too fast. That kind of goes along with being too big, but they wanted to get so much done so quick, they didn't actually take time to do what they're supposed to do.
That's like that thing. What is that quote on Jurassic Park? They were so excited that they could do it, they never backed off to think should they do it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And back to that cognitive framing thing, maybe that was part of that, where it was just the excitement of getting it done and making it happen, that everybody was so focused on that, and that they simplified all these issues into the simpler issue of, hey, we just want to get it done. You know what I mean? I don't know if that came out right, but
I was typing. Say that again.
so maybe it was where when it going back to that cognitive framing, I guess I'm trying to figure out what they were trying to say. Maybe it was just wanting to get it done. That was the simpler explanation. It wasn't like the big problem wasn't addressed or whatever, just because they just wanted to make it happen. They were just excited about all of the prospects of making this happen and making this awesome shuttle and staying within these budget points and then all of that stuff. They were so focused. Yeah, I've already said that a couple times, but they were so focused on those things, and maybe that was how they were trying to simplify the bigger issues that were going on and not addressing them. That may not be what that question was asking. Sorry, I didn't mean to get back, but
That's good. We have several weaknesses. The only strength that I have is data driven. Is there anything else that anybody thinks would be a strength of NASA that they have? Whether it be the beginning of its inception or maybe even to Columbia and now?
I think people. They have so many brilliant people. That's a huge, I would think, plus. They have all these great minds coming together and creating these wonderful things that can do amazing things and help us, with whatever, exploration or whatever data that they want to collect and all that stuff. It's just when you need to turn around and care about that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, and just looking at what they were able to accomplish,
Exactly.
I mean, looking down at one of these exhibits, they'd had over 106 flights or 112 flights with these shuttles.
Okay. So this next question is asking about specific individuals, like the names of the people here. So the question says, tell me about the people in the case that were important contributors to this specific mission's failure. So, like the ham person, probably. I forget the first name, but that lady.
Yeah, I see Ham. I'm trying to look through here. Another person was McCormick. Does anybody remember who McCormick is? Was he one of the engineers? McCormick later relayed this information to the MMT management during the second meeting. I think McCormick was one of the engineers that tried to tell them that it had broken off and that it might create problems on the way back. There was another person named Rocha, R-O-C-H-A, that emailed one of the managers, and she was basically saying she wanted the crew to perform a spacewalk to inspect the wing. But it says, but the manager never answered, or she never received an answer.
Who was that again? How you spell Rao? What?
Rocha, R-O-C-H-A. Rocha.
Oh, okay, Rocha. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Second, I'm like, who's Rocha? Oh, Rocha. Yeah.
Rocha. But that's not to it crashing, right? Those are just kind of people. We're looking for who contributed to its downfall.
Right. Yes. So far, I only have Ham because technically McCormick tried to do his part.
In saving, right?
I thought he did say something, but didn't he say something, or was it after it happened?
I'm not sure. Oh, McCormick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said something before it happened, but he was like one of the engineers that was trying to. There was a group chair. The shuttle program manager was Wayne Hale. Nope, sorry. Wayne Hale wanted imagery of Columbia's left wing, and he was one of the project managers. Got denied. I'm just trying to find names and see if they contributed.
There you go.
Yeah, Ham was one of the ones that canceled the images from Department of Defense.
Oh, that's right.
She couldn't figure out who had requested it, so she just canceled it.
Oh my God.
And then she sent an email just to confirm that foam wasn't an issue.
All these people, I mean, I can't remember, like I said, for the case in front of me. all these people, who were shouting out the warning signs and not getting anything back, the people who were above them, were they well-known analysts, scientists, engineers? Were they, what was their background? Did we get that? I can't remember.
Excuse me. Hmm.
I don't remember anything like that. Them saying
I
what
guess
the manager's background was.
Yeah, because the thing is it's interesting to me because I feel like a lot of times, within certain agencies, it happens where, there are certain people who get promoted to this, in enhanced position and stuff that they don't listen to the people who are, hey, these are issues, because one, they don't understand them because they've never been there themselves, and so they can't perceive it as the real threat that it is because they can't process the information, I guess, the right way. So they don't trust the people they have underneath them to do what their job is. I guess an example of right now is, legislatures that's being pushed through as far as for educators that, these things have to go into curriculum for our students or whatever, for the kids in school. And the people pushing those, laws and different things and all these standardized tests and stuff are doctors and lawyers and that have never stepped foot in a classroom with children and have actually, does that make sense? I wonder if this was the same kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't remember them mentioning much of it. There was this guy that it says in the end, Morton Thiel management did not recommend against launch. So that's when they were kind of talking in the beginning about like the O-rings were having issues and they might not seal. And so this guy named Boys Jolly warned of catastrophic consequences, but a guy named Morton Thiel did not recommend against the launch. So basically he said it's okay, go for it, even though he knew that there might be catastrophic consequences. So I think he's one. Morton is his first name, Morton.
That's the company.
Oh,
Morton.
that is Morton
Yep.
Thiel Management.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I'm also going to add NASA Chief Sean O'Keefe, because if you read the under the section Columbia's tragic end, I remember reading that he downplayed the concern of those people he described as foamologists because he didn't believe that foam would be the problem for the crash. So he downplayed it and said that's not the issue. I know that's after the fact, but in my mind that means that he must have downplayed it before the fact when they launched it in the first place.
I think one of the other names you want to put down is Shaq. It quoted in him saying, "I'm not going to be a Chicken Little on this."
Oh, yeah.
How do you spell his name again?
Shaq, S-H-A-C-K.
Remember that saying? I didn't remember who said it. So. There's one other person that I just saw, and I'm trying to find out where it was because I remember reading it now. It did talk about the engineer that we talked about, McCormick, but there was another person, an engineer, who here it goes, Schomburg, I think is what it is. He said in an email to, I guess, everyone at a meeting that he discounted the risk damage from debris, and said it should not be a problem, and he was considered one of the shuttle program managers. So yeah, Shaq and Schomburg.
Yep. His name is Paul Shaq. And he was the shuttle engineering office manager. You know, and Roca actually had second thoughts. He's the one that drafted the email saying that he thought it was wrong, but then never sent his email.
I have Ham, Hale, O'Keefe, Shack, and Schaumburg.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, next question. So I think this is going to be a rough answer, but we can go for it. Who is accountable and why? And I think obviously all these previous people that were mentioned are, but maybe if there's anybody else that comes to mind.
I guess maybe who had the most control? Who do we think had the most control out of that list?
Was it Ham, maybe?
To control the outcome? Yeah, maybe Ham.
No, I don't think Ham had the most control in that.
So not Ham.
No, if you look down in Exhibit 7 or 7, I would say it would go between Paul Shack and Schaumburg.
Yeah, Schaumburg was the one that said it wouldn't be a problem, right? That the foam like isn't a big deal.
Right.
And then
He said if it is a big deal, it's too late. What can we do about it?
and then what did Shaq say again? What did he do?
Shaq's the one that canceled the email requests and kind of sidelined the research.
I might blame Shaq then.
I have to agree.
And the reason I say that is because he was actually pushing against it. A lot of the people were kind of on the sideline saying like, yeah, it might be a problem, but I don't know of anything that we can do. He was sort of, it seemed like covering it up or trying to get everybody's attention away from it.
Yeah, that looks good. I like that answer. So this one, it's kind of more of a broad application here, but the first thing it talks about here is broad application of principles. So how can some of the things we've talked about apply to the real world? So a hint would be human capital at work, or recruiting star talent. I really don't know how that kind of relates, but that's what it talks about.
Well, I think, we've hit on organization quite a bit and just planning, and just I think that applies to every aspect of our lives. The more planning and preparation that we do, so when, things happen or whatever, we can deal with them before they become big disasters. So, such as, we're told to have our food storage, we're told to have financial planning done. So that way, if we lose a job, the breadwinner in our home loses their job, then we still have the savings that we can live on, or we still have groceries to feed our family. And so planning before disaster happens.
And I think from my experience in managing a transit company, one of the things that I've heard and I believe in firmly is you don't depend on a safety culture just on luck. So if somebody got away with not being in an accident, they were lucky, you still have to go after that to change that that action or the way they were doing something, because you don't want to be lucky, you want to be good.
Okay.
And I think also just, yes, it's great to get, it's great to get excited about new innovation and change and the things that you can do as a company and all of those things. But I think just to remember to also keep it about the people, and why you're doing what you're doing and who's actually making those wheels turn to get it there, and not put the product or whatever service, whatever it is that you're producing, above the people and their well-being and such.
Well said.
Oh, and another thing is maybe just remind, knowing that it's okay to take a step back. Like when you're excited about doing this thing and it's this great, wonderful thing that you're trying to roll out and trying to keep on a deadline, but knowing that, hey, it's okay to take that step back and say, hey, there's too many things blowing up. Where did we go wrong? And identifying that issue and dealing with it instead of just trying to push through and plow through and then, letting the cards fall where they will at that point, and then just, yeah.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And I think that can apply to our marriages and, our families and stuff, and taking time to stop and identify, hey, we're struggling as a family, or we're struggling as a couple, or struggling with our, faith, our testimonies or whatever, instead of just, we're going to keep our head down and keep powering through it, which sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. I understand that sometimes that has to happen, but taking the time to identify the issue and get to the root cause of it before it causes a disaster, essentially, something to blow up, or implode or whatever, taking the time to get to the root cause and caring enough about the people involved to get to the root cause and identify it and deal with it, instead of just pushing it to the wayside or taking the focus off of it onto something else that maybe isn't as important.
List. Okay, the last thing that we're going to talk about here. What principles, if any, from this lesson's reading apply to the case?
I haven't done the reading yet, but I can look at the book.
I mean, if we have, that's fine. If not, we can. That sounds good. We can go ahead and end the discussion tonight. But I was just curious if any of you had any insight or any comments on that.
Yeah, I can go grab the book really quick. And
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't done my reading yet either.
Yeah, I haven't done my reading.
yeah, maybe it'd be good to skip that one then.
Sounds good to me. I'm not opposed to that. That sounds good though. So I was able to get all this typed up. But I think it was a good discussion. We got a lot of the questions answered with biases, overall analysis, questions like that. Other than that, there's nothing else that I know of that we need to do. Anybody else have anything else they want to add?
I don't think so. Were you able to get the recording, Seth?
Yeah, I think so. It says live, and I guess do I click links when I stop the broadcast to copy and paste that, or what?
No, I think you go back to like the event, and then it should you should be able to just see our thing, and then they should have a URL for that.
Okay. And do you guys all want an email with that URL in that?
I mean, I think if you post it on the discussion board, then I could go in there, and honestly, I probably won't watch it because I experienced it, but.
Right.
But,
I should
yeah,
post an email also or what? But yeah, I can do that. I can post it there.
I just hope you have better luck.
Yeah, sorry, Grant, for all that junk that you went through.
Well, and we'll go ahead and we'll find out then and see how it goes. Other than that, there's nothing else that I know of. So I guess we'll see you guys or talk to you guys whenever we need to next time. I guess, do we know who the group leader is for next week?
I think next week was still empty.
Yeah, I believe it was kind of like we were hoping. What's his name?
Tyson?
Yeah, Tyson would fill it in. But if he doesn't, I could just do 2 in a row or something.
Well, do we want to just email him and see if he'd be willing to do it?
Or text him. He said he was going to be on late and he didn't get on, so I don't know what that is, but
I mean, I could plan to do it as well as a backup in case he can't. I mean, I don't mind doing that. If somebody else could take over the recording part of it, if they don't mind.
Yeah, well, why don't we shoot him an email, Grant? I think that was a good idea. Let's shoot him an email and
Give him the chance to.
yeah, see if he'd be willing, and then if not, maybe we can figure some plan B.
And if if Seth gets the recording, I'm nominating him as our technical guru.
yeah, only thanks to Jared, though. It's the only reason I got it done.
Teamwork.
Yay. Okay, sounds great. I could send out that email to Tyson if you want. I'll send it out right now.
You know, you sent out the original link, didn't you, for the document?
Yes, I did.
Why don't you just resend that to Tyson, see if he can fill, just tell him, hey, there's a spot open next week. Can you do it?
Okay. Sounds good. I will. Yep, I'll do that. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, all.
Yeah.
Have a good